Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If in the last few episodes, we've shed too many tears over escapes in the pouring rain, over James kneeling in the downpour, begging for approval, or over the scornful looks people threw at Diep, then today, get your tissues ready for a very different reason. Today, we cry tears of pure, overwhelming joy. James's father, the man who once forbade him and Diep from marrying the man who once declared, "As long as I'm breathing, Diep will never set foot in this house," has done something today that has shaken high society to its core. A wedding of the century is about to take place. But behind the dazzling aura of billion-dollar gowns and supercars lies a deeply human story of repentance and forgiveness. Will this wedding go smoothly? Or is there still turbulence waiting at the last minute? Let's step into these emotional moments right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe to send your blessings to the couple, James and Diep. The story begins on a rainy afternoon at the small house on the outskirts of town where James and Diep have been living since leaving the villa. A shiny black Rolls-Royce pulled up in front of the door. The person stepping out was none other than Mr. Juan James's father. But unlike his usual bossy, imposing self today, he looked 10 years older. His hair had turned completely white after long nights of sleepless regret. James stood blocking the door, shielding Diep behind him, his eyes full of guard. "What are you doing here, Dad? If you're here to chase us away again, don't bother." Mr. Juan looked at his son, then at Diep, his future daughter-in-law, who was trembling but still gripping James's shirt tight. He didn't shout. He slowly took off his fedora, took 3 steps forward, and then something no one expected happened. Mr. Juan bowed. It was the deepest bow a group chairman had ever made. "I didn't come to chase you away." His voice was hoarse and shaking. "I came to ask you to give me a chance. Let me be a real father." James was stunned. Diep was in shock too. Mr. Juan tremblingly pulled an old red velvet box from his breast pocket. He opened it. Inside was the family heirloom jade bracelet, the item his mother left him. The item he swore he would only give to a daughter-in-law of equal status. He walked up to Diep. His hands, calloused from years of business battles, now shook as he took her thin hand. "Diep, I was wrong. I used money and status to measure people's hearts, forgetting that true love is priceless. You stayed by James when he had nothing. You saved his life. You sacrificed for him. You deserve this more than any high society lady." He placed the bracelet in Diep's hand, tears welling in his eyes. "If you don't mind this senile, stubborn old man, then please accept this bracelet and come home, child. Come home and be my daughter-in-law." The word "dad" rang out, dispelling the chill of the rain outside. Diep burst into sobs. She didn't need a fortune. She just needed this acceptance. She nodded and hugged Mr. Juan tight. The 3 of them stood there under the leaky roof, but the family warmth was hotter than any fireplace in the villa. After that day, shocking news spread through the press. The young master of the Huangjia Group officially returned to run the company. And the first thing he did wasn't signing a $1 trillion contract, but announcing his wedding to his Cinderella, Diep. In the press conference, facing hundreds of cameras, James held Diep's hand tight and declared, "I want to hold a wedding, not to show off wealth, but to make it up to this woman. She has suffered too many disadvantages, endured too much humiliation just for loving me. On that day, I want the whole world to know Diep is my wife, the rightful lady of James, and the only person worthy of standing beside me. Mr. Juan sat in the front row, smiling and nodding with pride. He gave James full control. "Do whatever you want, son. I'll cover all the costs. Make it the biggest wedding this city has ever seen." Preparations began. James spared no expense. Diep's wedding dress was custom made in Paris, hand beaded with 1,000 crystals. The venue was an old castle by the sea, decorated with 50,000 white roses, Diep's favorite flower. But for Diep, that luxury didn't matter as much as seeing Mr. Juan and James sitting together every evening, happily discussing plans. The once cold villa was now filled with laughter. She felt happy, not because she was becoming a queen, but because she had healed the wounds in the hearts of the two most important men in her life. However, as they say, the tree wants peace, but the wind never ceases. The news of the wedding made plenty of jealous people see red. Malicious rumors began to surface on social media. She must have used some kind of love spell to trap that family. It's definitely a shotgun wedding. Just a gold digger hitting the jackpot. It reached a breaking point 3 days before the wedding. An anonymous package was sent to Mr. Juan. Inside were crudely photoshopped images smearing Diep's poverty-stricken past, along with a threat: "If you don't cancel the wedding, these pictures will be on the front page tomorrow." Diep was terrified, her face draining of all color. She intended to tell James to call off the wedding to save the family's honor. But Mr. Juan, an old fox in the business world, was not easily bullied. He slammed his fist on the table, his eyes burning with rage. "Do they think I'm dead? You dare touch my daughter-in-law in my own home." He turned to Diep, his voice steady. "You have nothing to fear. In the past, I forbade you because I was blind. But now, anyone who wants to touch you has to step over my dead body. The wedding goes on, and I'm going to teach those lowlifes a lesson." That very night, Mr. Juan mobilized his entire security team and his best lawyers. The blackmailer was caught in just 2 hours. It turned out to be a henchman for a business rival, wanting to use the scandal to crash the group's stock price. The incident was resolved quietly in the shadows, but it only made the Huang family's determination to protect Diep rock solid. The wedding day finally arrived. The whole city was overwhelmed by the procession of supercars stretching for a kilometer. The seaside castle was as magnificent as a fairy tale dream. The guest list was full of heavy-hitting politicians and business tycoons. But the most emotional moment wasn't the cake cutting or the wine pouring. It was when the chapel doors opened. Diep appeared in a pure white gown, looking like an angel. But she had no father to walk her down the aisle. Her parents had passed away long ago. She stood there lonely and solitary, eyes swimming with tears as she looked toward James waiting at the altar. Suddenly, from the VIP row, Mr. Juan stood up. He adjusted the bow tie on his collar and walked quickly toward Diep. The entire room went silent. Everyone held their breath. What was Mr. Juan doing? He walked up beside Diep, offered his arm, and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Diep no longer has a birth father, but she has a dad. Today, I will personally walk my daughter to give her to James. deep broke down tears smudging her makeup. She took Mr. Juan's arm. The moment the man who once rejected her most took on the role of the father guiding her to happiness became the most beautiful, shocking image of the day. Step by step on the red carpet, Mr. Juan whispered to her, "Thank you for not abandoning James. Thank you for teaching me a lesson about love. Be happy, my daughter." When he handed Diep's hand to James, he clasped both their hands together, his voice choking up. "I am entrusting this treasure to you. If you make her cry one more time, I won't forgive you." James beamed, holding Diep's hand tight. "I swear on my life." The ceremony proceeded with the blessings of thousands. But the drama wasn't over yet. When the MC announced the ring exchange, James suddenly grabbed the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, today is my happy day. But I want to give a special gift to the woman of my life." The big screen on stage lit up. It wasn't a wedding video. It was a video showing Diep's old house in the countryside, now renovated and spacious, transformed into a shelter named after Diep's parents, a place to nurture orphans. James looked at Diep with deep affection. "I know you always worry about your hometown and poor children like you used to be. Dad and I secretly built this place. From now on, you aren't just the mother of our children, but the godmother of hundreds of other kids. Will you agree to run it with me?" Diep was speechless, only nodding furiously. She never expected James and Mr. Juan to be this thoughtful. They didn't just give her a title. They respected her past and her dreams. The wedding ended with a brilliant fireworks display lighting up a corner of the ocean sky. James lifted Diep high amidst the cheers. Mr. Juan stood from afar, raising a glass of wine, smiling with satisfaction. For the first time in years, he felt his heart was truly at peace. The storm had passed. The forbidden love was in the past. Only sincere love remained. But ladies and gentlemen, in that cheering crowd, the camera lens accidentally panned past the dark corner. There was a stranger wearing a baseball cap, covering half his face, silently observing everything. He didn't clap, and he didn't smile. He pulled out his phone, typing a short message. "Target sighted. Plan B initiated." Then he disappeared into the night. Who is that person? What is Plan B? Is James and Diep's happiness truly peaceful forever? Or is a massive tsunami silently forming from the glorious past of the Huangjia group? The first sunrise after the wedding. The Huang Villa was bathed in early morning sunlight and the lingering scent of roses from yesterday's party. In the luxurious master bedroom, 2 large suitcases stood neatly by the door. Tickets to the Maldives lay on the vanity departure time 10 a.m. this morning. Diep woke up, stretching to welcome the new day as the official daughter-in-law of the Huangjia group. She turned to her side, intending to plant a morning kiss on her husband's cheek. But the space beside her was empty and stone cold. "James," Diep called out softly, a sense of unease creeping in. She slipped on a silk robe and walked down the stairs. The atmosphere in the house was strangely quiet. She found James in his study. He wasn't in pajamas. He was still wearing his suit from last night tie, loosened dark circles under his eyes as he stared glued to the computer screen. He was surrounded by piles of thick documents. "You didn't sleep," Diep gently placed her hand on his shoulder. James jumped hurriedly, snapping the laptop shut, as if to hide something. He turned, forcing a stiff smile. "Good morning, my love. I was just checking the news." But Diep knew him too well. His eyes didn't lie. They held absolute anxiety. She looked at the screen that hadn't fully turned off. It showed the group's stock chart taking an abnormal nosedive overnight, accompanied by glaring red text warning financial breach. Diep sighed, pulling up a chair opposite him. She picked up the plane ticket from the desk, fingered it for a moment, and then gently tore it in half. "Reep!" The sound of tearing paper echoed dryly in the quiet room. Diep, what are you doing?" James panicked. "We aren't going anywhere," Diep said, her voice firm but gentle. "Look at yourself, dark circles, shaking hands. You're worried sick about the company, aren't you? If we go to the Maldives now, your body will be on the beach, but your soul will be stuck in this chairman's chair. What's the point of a honeymoon like that?" James lowered his head, massaging his temples. "I'm sorry. Last night, cybersecurity reported an attack on the data system, right while we were exchanging rings. Confidential data regarding old projects has been stolen or scrambled. If I leave now, the shareholders will panic." "But I promised you." Diep took his hand. "You promised to love me for life. You didn't promise to travel today. A honeymoon is for enjoyment, but right now our house is on fire. I am your wife. I want to fight the fire with you, not abandon you to go have fun." James looked at his wife, too moved to speak. He thought Diep would be angry or feel self-pity. But no, she was braver than he imagined. "All right." James exhaled his eyes, returning to their usual sharpness. "We'll postpone it. I need a week, no, maybe a month to clean up this mess. When everything is absolutely safe, I'll make it up to you tenfold." They didn't know that Diep's decision to stay unintentionally saved them from a horrific disaster. Because the flight they were supposed to be on 3 hours later suffered a severe technical failure and had to make an emergency landing. Deciding to stay, James threw himself into a new war. He and Mr. Huan realized that during the time Mr. Huan was ill, and James had left, the Huangia group had been manipulated by an underground force from the inside. The following days were filled with extreme tension. James left early and returned late. He discovered a series of ghost contracts signed under his name forged during his absence. Huge sums of money had been transferred abroad legally. At the office, James convened an emergency meeting. Who approved this Black Coast project? James slammed the file onto the table, the sharp sound silencing the entire meeting room. The directors looked at each other in fear. An old HR director tremblingly stood up. "Sir, Mr. Chairman, that project was proposed by the boss's former trusted assistant, Uncle John, before he disappeared." John. That name again. James and Mr. Huan looked at each other. John had been fired, revealed as the traitor in the previous fake fire incident. But it turns out he wasn't just a bulky bodyguard. He was a venomous snake who had injected his poison deep into the company's machinery long ago. He didn't act alone. James deduced. John is just the enforcer. There must be someone pulling the strings from behind someone who knows the nooks and crannies of Hwanggia even better than we do. While James was racking his brain over numbers, Diep didn't sit idle. She decided to use this time to support her husband in her own way. She brought lunch to his office, using her gentleness to soothe the hot tempers of the staff. But right in this skyscraper, Diep began to feel eyes watching her. One afternoon, when Diep took the VIP elevator to go up to James's office, the elevator was running smoothly when it suddenly jerked to a halt between the 13th and 14th floors. The lights went out completely. Diep panicked, gripping the handrail tight. In the darkness, the elevator PA system suddenly crackled with strange static. Then, a distorted voice echoed out, "New bride. Do you think you've won? The game has only just begun. Your honeymoon will be a blood moon." Diep trembled, violently cold sweat breaking out. Who is that? Who is speaking? 5 minutes later, the power returned. The elevator opened on James's floor. Diep rushed out, her face pale as a sheet, almost collapsing into James's waiting arms. The elevator incident was investigated immediately. Security cameras showed the power was cut from the central control room. But bizarrely, the recording of that voice had been wiped clean without a trace. Only Diep had heard it. James held his trembling wife tight, his eyes darkening. The enemy wasn't just attacking their finances. They were beginning to terrorize his family psychologically right inside his sanctuary. For safety, James requested that Diep temporarily limit going out and always have bodyguards on standby. But the danger came from the most harmless-looking thing. At the Villa Diep was rearranging unopened wedding gifts. She opened a large box wrapped in luxurious black paper with no sender's name. Inside was a stunning oil painting of James and Diep standing at the altar. "It's so beautiful," Diep exclaimed, but looking closer, she noticed a chilling detail. In the painting, in a dark corner of the chapel, the artist had added a shadowy figure in black, wearing a cap, holding a pocket watch, pointing exactly to 12 midnight. And beneath the painting, instead of an artist's signature, was a tiny line of text written in red ink. "Tick-tock, the grace period is over. Return what your father took." Your father? Diep was stunned. Her parents were just poor farmers who had passed away. What could they have taken from anyone? Diep hurriedly called James. James immediately sped home. When he saw the writing, his expression changed. He recognized this handwriting, or at least he recognized this style of threat. "Your father. Diep, are you sure your parents were just farmers?" James asked, his voice serious. Diep was bewildered. I don't know. I was an orphan from a young age. I only heard from my grandma that they died in an accident. What's wrong, honey? Before James could answer, his phone rang. It was Mr. Huan. James. Get home now. I just remembered something. The name John is actually an alias. His real name is linked to a case 20 years ago in Diep's hometown. It's possible. Diep is the real target, not you. Mr. Huan's words hit like a lightning bolt. They postponed the honeymoon, thinking it was just busy work. But it turns out staying behind had unintentionally triggered a secret that had been sleeping for 20 years. Diep wasn't a Cinderella who accidentally met a prince. Her appearance, her family's tragedy, and the connection to the Hwanggya group. It all seemed to be a chessboard set up long ago. That night, James and Diep didn't sleep. They sat in the study piecing together the clues. The cyber attack, the threat in the elevator, the bizarre painting mentioning Diep's father. If we had gone on the honeymoon, James mused, clutching his lighter tight, our house would probably have been ransacked by now, and these secrets would have been buried forever or stolen. So what do we do? Diep asked her eyes, anxious, but no longer fearful like they were in the afternoon. She knew she was the focal point, and she needed to be strong. James stood up, walking to the window, looking out into the pitch-black night. They want us to panic. They want us to suspect each other. But we will do the opposite. We will use this postponed honeymoon as a trap. James turned back, his eyes burning with determination. Tomorrow, I will announce fake news that we are still going on a honeymoon next week. We'll create a false security void at the villa to lure that snake out of its hole. Do you dare to take this risk with me? Diep looked at her husband, then at the threatening painting on the desk. She nodded decisively. As long as you're holding my hand, I fear nothing. Let's drag the person behind the shadows out into the light. Operation Fake Honeymoon was officially activated, but James and Diep didn't expect that their enemy was more dangerous than they thought. He wasn't just outside the gate. He was right inside this house under a perfect cover that no one suspected. And what did the phrase, "Return what your father took," actually mean? A treasure, a secret document, or a human life? All will be revealed in the next episode. The Mole with the Face of an Angel. My dear friends, the decision to postpone the honeymoon seems simple, but it is opening a new chapter filled with blood and tears. Can James protect Diep from her own mysterious past? If you are curious about the true identity of Diep's parents, leave a comment saying, "What is the truth?" And don't forget, like this video. If you find the script getting more and more gripping, subscribe immediately to be the first to know who the faceless man is. Goodbye, and have a good night. If you can,